Hello, my name is Dr. Benita Cobb, and I am the Learning Specialist at the Bratsky Student Athlete Academic Success Center. In this video session, we'll be talking about test-taking strategies. Before we go into the specifics of that, I would like to talk to you about the three levels of success. The first comes from your preparation. The second comes from your actual test taking, and then the third comes from your post-test. In this model, you want to spend 40% of your time preparing for the test, 20% of your time in the actual test, and then 40% of your time post-test. We will go over all the different ways that you can focus on this model and help you succeed when you're taking your exams. First, we have test preparation. What do you need to do to prepare well? You should keep up with your readings and lectures. When you go to class, make sure that you're taking active notes, and also make sure that you go to all the classes. Make sure that you're doing multi-level reviews. Daily reviews consist of reviewing your notes from the previous class period right before this class period. And then, again, after class, review the notes that you just took. You will be constantly reinforcing the information. Next, we have our weekly level reviews. At the end of the week, review all the notes that you took. Make sure that you're not missing any information and that you understand the big picture and think about important concepts. If you find a problem in your weekly review, you still have the opportunity to ask the professor or ask a friend for help. Review right before the exam. If you do all of these, most of the problems are going to take care of themselves. There are two phases to test preparation. The first is maintenance studying, where it's a routine, and it's throughout the semester, such as our multi-level reviews. You want to use environmental cues for maximum comfort and focus. Create a routine for yourself. For example, you come home from class, you eat dinner, watch TV for an hour, and then 15 minutes on social media checking anything you need to check. Now it's time to sit down and focus. You're going to turn the TV off, turn off the computer, silence your phone, and focus on your studying. And then you're going to have a dry run level of studying. This is part of your final test preparation, and it's done right before the exam. You want to make sure that you're not very comfortable and not very familiar with the area because you want to mimic the test conditions that you'll be taking the exam in. You want to make sure that you're sitting in a desk and a chair that's similar to the one that you're going to take the test in when you're in that normal classroom. Also, try to set yourself a time limit so you know how to manage your time. Practice is the best way to prepare for an exam. Use practice test materials that are available. Think about what type of questions will be on the test. How much time will you have on the test? What is the format going to be? And try to mimic that environment. Make it as quiet as possible unless you know that it's going to be a noisy area that you test in. If you can find an empty classroom somewhere on campus, study in those conditions and you'll be well off. Next, during the test, there's different types of test questions. This is where our 20% of the actual event takes place. When you are going through multiple choice questions, use the process of elimination. Mark off any extreme answers because they're usually not correct. Make sure that you're going through these multiple choice questions and you're reading all of the answers. If it's a short answer type question, then try to find the keywords in the question stem and then use those words in your answer. Be sure that you stay on point and on topic because usually short answers mean that your professor really don't want more than 2 or 3 sentences. Next, you're going to have essay type questions where your professor may ask that you write several paragraphs on a point, either defending your opinion or elaborating on a point that they have made. What can be very useful is writing down any important facts or information that you want to include in your essay in the margins of your paper or on a piece of scratch paper. This way, you can make sure that you have all the key points that you wanted to make in your essay. By doing so, you don't have to focus on remembering what they are, and you can focus on writing well. If your test is a paper test and it's in class and you get to write on things, try to highlight, underline, circle anything on the test that will help you know what to train your thoughts in for when you go back and look at it later. There are several types of question stems, but when it's a multiple choice question, analyze the question by covering the answers first. See if you remember the answer without looking at the choices. If you can, then you're right on track. And if not, that's okay. Read the stem within each one of the answers and mark off the ones that are not correct by using the process of elimination. When you're taking a test, make sure that you practice good test time management techniques. Try to take the easy questions first, go through the test once, do as many of the questions that you can, and the ones that are going to come naturally, and then leave the harder questions for later. Once you've done that, make sure that you spend a majority of the time focusing on the higher valued questions. Usually professors will write how many points each question is worth. The more points, then the more focus. You want to gain as many points as possible before you run out of time. So speaking of time, you should always know where the clock is and always be aware of how much time you have left. If there's a good chance that you're not going to finish in the time given, then plan accordingly. If you have 30 minutes left and 10 essay questions to write, know that you have to divide your time and write as much as possible for each one of those questions. If there's no penalty for guessing and it's a multiple choice test, make sure that you circle as many answers as possible. Guess away. Just make sure that you get as many answers down as possible. A guess is better than no guess. There are pros and cons to skipping. I'll go over a couple of the points with you. You can evaluate whether this technique is good for you or not. One of the pros to skipping is that it creates a floor beneath you. It minimizes the damage if you run out of time, and it can give you confidence. You might also find embedded clues that will help you answer the harder questions. Use the test to gain new knowledge. If you, for some reason, missed out on something, sometimes the answer for one question is mentioned or implied in the text of another question. Be aware of these types of clues and see if you can find them on the test. On the other hand, we have some cons to skipping. One of the cons is that you might skip too many questions and then start to panic. Stay calm and just do the best that you can do in the meantime. Sometimes if the questions are sequential or if they're in a familiar order, it might interrupt the flow of the information that you have in your head. When you're trying to see if you want to skip questions or not, think about these points and see which one's going to work best for you. Last, we have our post event where we should spend 40% of our time. Review the test that you took once it's over and also review your practice test. See what sorts of questions that you're missing. Are you missing questions because you don't understand the question stem or because of the answer choices? If the problem comes up that it's the stem, practice reading the questions and translating them. Identify keywords and explain to yourself how to solve it once you know the answer. If the answers are the problem, then the practice process should be process of elimination. For additional resources, visit Bradsky Student Athlete Academic Success Center. We have individual appointments for time management and life skills. There are also video resources just like the one you watched today and private tutoring for specific course issues that you might face. We look forward to seeing you.